No. Actually, she's having fantasies about me using her husband's name. Right, okay, then we're gonna get started. Right, so I would look. Every time I go to start, she gets off her chair and she leaves the bloody room.
No, I'm only getting my cup of tea.
All right. Right, are we ready? Right, are we ready for story time?
Yeah, we've been ready since 7:15.
Look, I've explained why, right? I've explained why. I've been listening to you. Hang on. I've been listening to you two talking, right? And do you know what? I was on. Anne, can I talk? Thank you. Right. I was on set. I was on set yesterday, and a guy came up to me and said, "My wife watches you on YouTube. She's a big fan of yours." I thought, "Oh no, that's brilliant." He thought thought I'd recognised you. He said, "Right, okay then. Right, we're gonna start off with news. Go on, add her on, Richard. Go on, do your bloody job. It's about time you did something, right? Goff, any news from you this week?"
Well, only the Horde.
And to be honest with you, you said that to me a couple of days ago. I had a clip about a Horde. I haven't been able to read it. I do apologise. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the Horde, or we'll do it next week.
Well, it was on the news. It was a Horde that was found by detectorists, and they sold it for £4.2 million, and they all got a cut of it. Silver coins.
Oh.
Years ago, I think they found it, but it's only just been sorted out.
Oh.
They were William the Conqueror silver pennies.
Ooh.
Oh.
And the detectorist has bought himself a new house.
Wow.
Paid off it.
Well, actually, that's not. If he bought one in the valleys, it's only like £5,000. So there's no really. That's not any news, is it, Goff? You know.
Well, I don't know, but I mean,
I don't think he would have bought one in the valleys.
Oh, that's racist. That's active. That's active racism, man. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. You want to take?
Oh, that's good. We like a bit of that, Goff. We like a bit of that. Mind you, we love a bit of hoarding, right? Right, and talking about hoarding, all those magazines with images of me on every single page under your bed. Anne, any questions? Anything you want to say, Anne?
Did anyone see that YouTube film or video of somebody who was homeless and they built themselves a castle?
Yeah, I saw that. That was a guy in the valleys, and they're asking him to take the castle down now.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose, well, I don't think they should, no.
No, I don't think they should either. The thing is, the guy's really done nothing wrong, right? And as they say, Anne, right? An Englishman's house is his castle.
Yeah, he's Welsh.
well, that's it then. He has to knock it down, right?
No.
Anything else, Anne? Do you know what? I've actually got my special acting brush. There you go. I brushed my hair with it. Right.
I don't know whether there was just history searching for Britain, digging for Britain.
Yeah, with Alice Robertson and leathers. Richard fantasizes about that, but I'm more into Bethany Hughes and Susie Goff. Right, Anne, that's enough of the fantasy stuff today. Right, Richard, anything you want to tell us?
No, nothing from me. Or nothing interesting, anyway.
Nothing interesting. Pat, you know what I mean, right? Right, Pat, anything from you other than the fact that you'd have a lovely conversation with Kate because she's a massive Donald Trump supporter. But other than that, Pat, anything you want to tell us?
No news. I'm just having my dinner here.
All right, then. Okay. We don't want to hear you. We don't want to hear you masticating. Right, carry on. Talking about real men, right? Let's get Henry on.
Good evening. Yeah, we have got a find. It was reported this morning at 6:27 this morning on the BBC, finding a 3,500-year-old wooden spade in Dorset, in Portland Harbour. Yep, the big excavations going on. You should be down there in your Wellingtons.
No, well, I can't. What? These Wellingtons? Yeah, these ones. You want me to wear these? What these ones? Yeah. All right, then that's fine. Hang on a minute, Anne, right? Why do you always interfere with people? Right. Henry.
Yes.
He loves you.
A steak
Right,
on a stick.
Anne, look, you know nothing about the shovel, and nor do I. That's why I want to listen to
It's
Henry. So,
a wooden spade.
see,
It's described as.
oh, look, is it a shovel or a spade?
They've described it as a spade because it's flat.
You're a bloody shovel, you are. Right. Right. So, how big is this thing? Is it a paddle?
No, they're definitely calling it a spade.
You sure it's not a shovel?
Wessex
Hey.
Archaeology are reporting it.
Oh, he's from,
They're meant to be professional people, I think.
Hampshire.
What are you trying to say? Yeah, what are you trying to say? Oh, that's really good. And you're talking about 3,000 years before the birth of Christ.
Yeah, 3,500 years old.
Wow.
Oh, hang on a minute.
Oh,
It's 1,000 years before the birth of Christ. So it's
Yeah.
3,000 years old. Right,
Well,
okay.
he wouldn't have used it though.
What do you mean he? What, Jesus?
Yes.
Well, you know, they know he was. They know he was gonna. They know he was coming, right? And you know, having a date on a shovel saying 1,000 years BC is completely accurate. Right. So what? Right. Last night we the problem is with last night is that we had a few people away last night, and I wanted to do the Roman access analysis stuff last night, but some of the people who actually wanted to hear about that weren't there. So I thought, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the other bit of the presentation, which is like trying to fit in lots of artifacts from the Scatness excavation, and then that'll bring us nicely on to what I want to do next week, because we've got the access analysis stuff part 2 next week, and it would make sense if I did it this way. And also at the end of this tonight, I just basically say, look at the map of Roman artifacts found at the site at Scatness. What does this tell you? And then we go, the rest we'll do next week. So I thought that was best. It worked really well, and hopefully it's going to work the same tonight. So we're going to get onto those images, and I'm quite surprised everything's quite clear, because I'm sat in the car in a lay-by as they've closed the A470 behind me. I've just managed to get here. If not, there would have been a big slog on the way home. That's why we had a bit of a delay earlier on, but that's why I'm here, guys, to give you your rest of your spiel. I think this is going to be it tonight. But what I'm going to Henry, can you remind me, when are you going to be leaving us for like 8 months?
11th of January.
ooh.
But your son's no longer serving at Aquateria, is that correct?
I can't divulge that.
Oh.
Yeah, well, it doesn't. Therefore, he is still serving at Aquateria, because if he wasn't serving at Aquateria, right, you would say no.
Shush.
All right, sorry. I've really, you know,
He
I've
is
really,
somewhere else.
yeah.
Look,
Well,
I've got somebody serving in Gaza.
I don't give a damn. Well, all right then? Who's serving in Gaza then? The Pope?
Or is it Beirut? Oh, Beirut, I think.
Oh my bloody God! Who?
United Nations.
Oh,
I'm not telling you who it is.
I don't.
I just thought I'd say it.
No, actually, none of us gives a damn. All right, none of us cares. Right? I don't care. Henry doesn't care. That's it. What do you mean you've got somebody serving in Beirut?
Oh, it's it's the Irish.
Look, I gotta be honest with you, right? This Irish thing is overrated. Okay, they're just weird people who look like leprechauns with funny ears with green cloaks, and that's Irish people. Right. Sorry. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to say most of you already know, but don't forget to put your money over because we start a new month next month. Because the month next month starts next month, which is November. So therefore, I need the monies off you.
There's a whole week to go before November.
Yeah,
And I've already sent it.
look, what do you want?
A
What do you want?
medal.
A medal?
A
What do you
medal.
want? What do you want? Well done, Anne. I'm going to worship at your feet for the next 2 bloody months. Do you know what I mean? I put a lot of effort into these, and I got to put a lot of effort into screwing. And this is what this is, right? This itself is a Yankee screw, right? And I did my article on this in the Barron District News. Now, me and Richard have got a big thing at this. We still got this thing going, right? This was found in the rock, along with a load of others at the Bendricks in Barry, right? And these were laid by the Americans to fasten down a railway line. And guess what? Richard and I can't find a single record of this existing in the Second World War, but there's the evidence. And this has got nothing to do with Shetland, Scatness, and let's move on. Right, good. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to look at these artifacts just to give you an idea where we are. We're at Old Scatness, and as you remember, the runway goes through the word Scatness. There it is. No, and they did not have runways in the Iron Age. All right, end of story. But they had everything else. So what we're going to do, we're going to get down to our undies. We're going to get straight into the archaeology, and we're going to get butch, right? Because this is one thing that Goff likes, us being very butch in archaeology, right? So that's building number 12, and this is building number 8. Now, one interesting thing that I've already opened with is that scattered around this site, they found loads of Roman archaeology, right? And this is in Shetland. And that's the last image we look at the end of the evening, showing you little red dots where Roman archaeology is being found. It's a fascinating look at some artifacts tonight. So there it is, Old Scatness, and there's the site of Jarls Hof. What does this site have in common with Denmark? You will find at the end, and it's not the word Jarls, it's not the word Jarls Hof either. Might be. So what I was looking and trying to give people last night was this array of archaeology at Scatness. Now, one of the things that we have done at Scatness, this wonderful Iron Age site in Shetland, is that we've looked at the buildings, we looked at the walls, and I said they went this way, and we've looked at the Scatness, and that we've looked at the access analysis, and we've tried to explain this, and we've tried to explain that. We tried to put everything together like a scatter graph. And then what we've got is the artifacts. Now the artifacts speak in a different way with Scatness, and why? Because it's likely that practically all the artifacts that we find at Scatness were made there, or they come from a considerable distance away. 2 points. The next point is that not only potential pottery manufacture at the site, but massive metallurgical manufacture at the locality. And it makes the people at Scatness look more like us than we can really understand, right? Other than actually having a runway in the Iron Age for alien crafts to land, which is something that Anne really believes in, which is obviously total nonsense. Other than that, these people are very modern looking, right? They guess what, guys? I'll show you a bit of evidence tonight that these people had metal piping. Yes, these Iron Age people had metal pipes, right? And I'm going to show you the evidence for that. This isn't fantasy. This is for real. And you're thinking, hang on a minute, if this is 1,900 years ago, or the birth of Christ, the Roman civilization, they had wooden pipes and lead pipes, but these people had copper pipes. Think about that. So in other words, these people in Shetland are so advanced that if Roman civilization never occupied the rest of Britain, these people with their advanced ways, and we're going to bring in Ireland as well, the Irish seem to be very fixed together. So you can imagine 2 waves of culture coming into Britain from Shetland, Orkney into northern Britain, right? And you talk about the influence of trade and culture from Ireland, how different would Britain be today? It wouldn't be different at all, because as I've said, if Roman era civilization hadn't have hit Britain, 1066 would have more than likely happened anyway. And then we got the Normans and the medieval period. That's it. We didn't need the Romans, but things would have been more or less the same timeline. Now, some of these images that we're looking at tonight, we've seen a few of them, but we're going to go much deeper. Now, when again we think about pottery from this period, and we think about understanding this period, and really wanting to connect with this period, we've got decorated pottery. Now, Mary, Anne's daughter, would have had a chart years ago off me that was a tick box chart, how to identify pottery. One of the things that I said on that chart was that in the Iron Age, they didn't really have decorated pottery, but there are exceptions to the rule, and we've got lots of really nice decorated pottery from Shetland in the Iron Age, but within the same timeline as the Roman world in the south, with the site of the ditches we'll look at next week, which is north of Cirencester, Gloucestershire.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the intriguing things tonight is some of the marks and carvings, in a way, on some of the bits of pottery, stone, metal that we see at this site. Is it decoration? Not by accident. And what does it mean? Can't tell you. Like much of this in the Iron Age. But then again, as a metaphor, what can you tell of modern politicians thinking these days? Right? You think you know what politicians are thinking about, and they're down the road, but they come up with something completely different. How therefore can we really understand how Iron Age people are thinking when people in our own society, we're actually wrong most of the time? And we think the weatherman's never going to lie to us, and he usually gets things wrong. So it's very much the same when we talk about the interpreting the past and trying to understand the past and how the past unravels in front of us. Another thing that is an exception to the rule, there are lots of exceptions to the rule in prehistoric Britain archaeology, is when we try to frame to understand dates on pottery. The bit of pottery over in the bottom right-hand corner with the lines on it, that pottery is all around the same age, roughly about 2,000 years ago. But if we were thinking about Flinders Petrie's method of seriation, this would bolt the trend. Because what we say about seriation is that if, for example, we don't see a rim developing, right, that's going to be the earlier pottery. And as the rim develops, that's going to be the later pottery. But in the Iron Age in Britain, it looks like all these styles of pottery, for example, at Scatness in Shetland, were all present and being broadcast as types in this period of the Iron Age. The idea of seriation is simplicity, development, complication. That was the Flinders Petrie idea to understand artifacts in his excavations in the Garda Desert in Egypt. However, Shetland is a different world and a different place to try to understand and get to grips with the archaeology of the past. Now, again, this word diagnostic. Diagnostic means that we can understand how a piece of pot, the circumference of pot works, the diameter of a pot, maybe not the height. If you remember those episodes of Time Team, where they used to find a single piece of pottery and they used to be able to understand how the settlement looked by that find of the one single piece of pottery. Some of those things were a bit over the top. However, when we think about understanding the past, starting with pottery, gives us a greater insight into the past than not finding a piece of pottery in the first place. And I think that's the point the Time team wished to make. You can get an idea from a single piece of pottery of its circumference as it's broadcast there. And as we think, what we've got is smaller vessels. These can be pottery vessels or stone vessels or wooden vessels, all looking very, very similar. Now, when we start opening up the stage, opening up the stall to try and understand Scatness, what we have is they're using wooden bowls, they're using stone bowls, they're using pottery bowls, they're using whalebone vertebra as bowls as well. They hollow them out, right? You might actually be able to use leather, hardened leather bowls as well. You can use lots of different things, and you start to think, well, hang on a minute. They've got a wide array of materials that they're using within their households, very similar to what we've got today. Obviously, most of us haven't got wooden bowls. Most of us haven't got stone bowls, but these people did, because they did, and they were able to do it. Small, big, fat, short, squat, decorated bowls of all materials, types, and sizes. Now, I think this next image shows us something very, very versatile. And the versatility is thinking of recycling. And what I mean by that is, if you, for example, look at Rome and the huge 10-meter tall amphora mound outside Rome, and they're just chucking them all over there, right? You're thinking, right, they're not recycling any of that. Romans did recycle, but they had so much amphora that they just stockpiled it in massive heaps and stacks in different towns and cities around their world. The Iron Age people in Britain were a little bit more versatile than that. And the versatility comes out in all of these little bits of recycled bits of pottery. And thinking about that, that's a spindle wheel made out of a piece of pot. Another spindle wheel made out of a piece of pot. And these could actually be stoppers for containers, or they might actually be small pieces as gaming pieces. Who knows? But these people were versatile, and what they were very good at is reusing and telling us another insight into a world that's very diverse. You know, when we think about recycling today, these people had it nailed. Another point to be made here is that when we look at their middens and so on, these types of people, inevitably we don't find as much material as we would like to. There's thousands and thousands of artifacts being found at Scatness, but if they're recycling, then that means that, you know, they're not as wasteful as us, and that's a very, very important point. This image is really bad. This is a schist or a schist disc, which is SCHIST. Very, very sort of very colourful, sometimes mediocre type of disc material that you can carve into beads and all sorts of wonderful things. And these are some of the objects that come from Shetland, which were actually very sought after by later peoples, such as the Vikings. And obviously, all of these come from the wonderful publication that I've got on Scatness. You can get an idea from those that you've got stone beads. And again, you can have, where it's got the whorls there, you can actually think also about having pottery beads, wooden beads, shell beads, you know, you name it. They're going to make leather beads, you know, or buttons, any of these things, right? So again, these people look more like us than meets the eye. You might be able to think of these people as being very similar to most of the things that may have been available at the beginning of the 1900s, right? You know, we haven't really got motor cars. You know, I know we've got um, sort of developmental types of cars coming onto our roads from 1895, but they're not, haven't got roads. The Wright brothers haven't really come around with their planes until 1906. And what I'm trying to get at is lots of the materials that these people are using, the iron and all the rest of it, the piping and so on and so on, is very similar to what people had in the Iron Age as well. It's only in modern years that we can say that there's a clear difference because we've got computerized technology, we got nuclear energy and all the rest of it, right? But back about 60, 70 years ago, they weren't far away in distance from what these people were using and how they were running their lives. You know, again, when we think about it, 100 years ago, Britain really didn't have decent metal roads. You know, these people didn't have metal roads what we can make of them. They may have had pathways and trackways. So again, it's not too much of a skip and a jump from these people as it may have been 100 years ago. Now, again, I thought these were rather interesting where you've got these, it's referred to as large perforated weights. And again, the way, when you think about this, the skill to be able to, oh, hang on a minute, we've lost the image a minute. Let's get back to that. The skill to be able to think, not that, a skill to get a stone, and then to all three of these, it's almost as if they've drilled in all of these, but they've stopped, right? And then what they've done, they've got another piece and they've drilled a hole in the middle, right? Very interesting object. And sometimes when you look at the history books, people say these things were used for this and these things were used for that. And you think, well, maybe there are other uses. Again, this idea of stone bowls, large sandstone bowls, and the technology and the culture of these people, again, using stone bowls. How many of us have got stone bowls? I know Michelle's got a granite pestle and mortar, right? That's a bowl. We don't really get people carving into stone anymore. But then again, back to a point I made earlier on. This very point, you know, that's sort of been shaped there. But this very point that if you got something out of stone, it's going to last for a long time. So there's going to be that, you know, if a stone bowls you're going to use from one generation to the next, and it's not going to break. You're not going to need to buy another or trade or make another stone bowl. Whereas today we might break 10, 20 bowls every year, right? When these people had more hardier materials and they only needed one for a long period of time, right? So again, these people have got less waste because their things are more durable. Going back to that adage that you could buy a washing machine 30 years ago and you're still using it today, right? You buy a washing machine now, it lasts 3 years. Right. So again, that I know Anne's been through 10 washing machines since 2020. She used to tell us every single week about a new washing machine she used to get. But these people didn't have that problem. Obviously, they didn't have modern day electrical washing machines. But the point I'm trying to make is that they had things that could last and be reused over a long period of time. And actually, there's one other thing. There's another point to be made here. Is it's saying that these are 3 sandstone lamps. You can use these as miniature bowls, but it says 3 sandstone lamps. And the point being is that you're going to put oil in these. These are naturally creating shapes and forms that they find on the beach, right? Oh, that'll be useful. It's slightly hollowed there. You know, they used to have sort of quartz and feldspar and these things, and that's all sort of come out. And you've got sort of a redly seemingly a bold surface, you know, inverted surface, and you collect, you know, for example, I can remember, oh, we've all done it, you know, I know Goff's a great romantic. He goes along a beach and he finds a stone shaped like a heart. You give that to somebody and they think, oh my God, you know, that heart-shaped stone, they've carved that, when in fact Goff found it on a beach and it's shaped like a heart, right? So you can see in nature things that don't need a lot of work, right? And and that's a very, very important point. I really like these when I was when I was getting these images prepared, the light wasn't good at times, but it's this point that you get stones, and this is quite a small stone, right? And there's a point with this, right? And there's a point with the description: triangular limestone sharpening stones, right? There's a few problems with that description. And the problem is you don't sharpen stones like that. Basically, you've got a stone, as I've got my scythe, clip, 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 or turn it over. But you don't scour into the rock. That's going to blunt your knife, right? So what are these marks? What are these marks on the knife? What are these marks in the stone, right? And also, if this is a sharpening stone, right, it's only 6-7 centimeters across, and you can imagine you fit that in your hand, right? And it's not going to be big enough. You're going to likely to cut yourself. So what are the marks on these stones? I'm not going to say language. And to be honest with you, when you look at this, if this to gouge out that in the stone, right, you're going to really have to go over and over and over and over and over again, right, to gouge that out into the stone, right? And at which point your knife is blunt. And you look at these things and you start to think, that's a nice little bit of a design. Is there something going on here? What is this telling us? So it's a bit like trying to think. Do you remember a long time ago we had I had one of my young lads. I mean, this was in the pandemic, and I broke up one of the lectures, and it was about Neolithic coming into Bronze Age, cup and ring marks, right? And we had the circular ones, right? And we did that as a lecture with you guys, and I took it and we did it online, and I had a small group of youngsters. Actually, I think there was 2 of them and me, and one of them said, actually, right, acoustically, if you've got a bit of wood and it's done the right way, and you went around in a circle really quite fast, right, acoustically, right, you can make a sound. And I thought that was great. And then I think now, just think about a modern, well, a vinyl record. Yes, you can still buy vinyl records. Yeah. But just think about a vinyl record in, for example, maybe in 1,000 years' time, obviously, hopefully civilization won't collapse and everything will be fine. But say in 1,000 years' time, they find these records and there's no label, the labels come off, and they find a fragment of a record. Are they going to think that that's actually a record? Are they going to think that that's something that can be played? Or are they going to think it's something like this? I'm not saying this is not a record, but what are those marks on there? What are they doing? Leave that. Let it go. Just giving you some ideas. Now,
Plectrum.
again, Donald Trump, what?
It says it's a plectrum.
It looks like a plectrum, doesn't it?
I
Could be a
don't know about
plectrum.
those, the other one.
That looks like a plectrum.
Yeah.
Well, it's all big. Yeah, it's a bit big to be a plectrum, but yeah. So this is quite a chunky thing. Those are this is part of a big quernstone, right? A rotary quern, right? And yeah, so that's the scale there. So it's it's quite a big rotary quern, right? So each of those bars is 10 centimeters, right? Anyway. So no, yeah, that's right. I think it's each of those bars is 10 centimeters of I think that's right. Anyway, maybe they're 5, but it's pretty big, right? Because that sort of gives it away. Hang on, oh bloody hell. Anyway, let's not get too hot about hang on. Let's not get too messed up in the scale. But if you think about this rotary quern, this is the top bit of the rotary quern, right? So the base bit of the rotary quern is a circular, right? Is a circular piece of sandstone, more likely to be sandstone. Right? And there's a hole in the middle. So let's sort of do a little bit of drawing. So we've got this big thing, okay, and there's basically a nice little bit of a hole in the middle, right? Basically, then what you've got an axle in the middle, an axle rod. Now that axle rod goes through that, right? So this thing here, thing on the left, is actually directly mounted on top. So if we sort of draw this in, and we put this sort of there, okay. And how does this turn around? Well, that's what that thing is there. That's going to have a little bit of wood in it as well. So that's going to be, you're going to move that around, right? And you're going to hear the ground grinding, right? Now, some of the designs, right, what you might have, and there's nothing showing on this one, some of the designs actually have another hole that goes all the way through. So what you do, you pour the grain in there, but there's no sign of that, right? So the way this works is that you lift this up and you put the grain underneath, and it's gonna, it's gonna be sort of a half a centimeter thick of grain, right? And as you move the rod around in a rotary movement, that's going to grind down your grain, and that's why you've got a little bit of a lip there, and then that's your flour. So it's quite a simple device, but I tell you what, this is really effective. And actually, even though we find lots of evidence of these in the Iron Age, if you had one of these in the medieval period, and you had a Norman lord of the manor, right? And the Norman lord of the manor found you grinding your own grain. Usually you were a serf, you were tied to the ground. Yeah, the ground. You'd basically be made homeless, because the whole Norman system was that you take your grain to be ground at the miller, and in grinding your grain at the miller ends up with some of the grain that then goes back into the taxes into the Lord of the Manor's fund. So when you think about it, so forget about fighting and all that stuff. If you think about this society, Iron Age society was incredibly free compared to medieval society. If I was to live in a society, if somebody said, do you want to live in a medieval society or you want to live in a Iron Age society, I'd go with Iron Age every single time. And the variety, I tell you what, right? We're looking at these images tonight. The types of material that were available to these Iron Age people in Shetland are so vast compared to the limited lives that we see of the average medieval people, thanks to this Normanized way of life. Now, basically, quartz eraser, quartz rubber. So you can imagine that this could hone a skin. You could have a pot that's just going green, and you lightly smooth the outside of the pot to burnish it, right? You could equally use this to with tubers, for example. Anything. This is a versatile object. Quartz versatile object, and quartz don't break unless you want to chuck it at something harder, right? So again, these tools last a long time. We've got such a wasteful society these days, and we think about waste. These people didn't think about waste, and they didn't think, oh, we don't have the resources, so we need to recycle things, right? Or reuse things. That's the best way. These people had resource-rich, time-limited lives. So what you do, you get what you need. It needs to last, so you can use what's left of your time to do everything else that you need to do in life, right? And that's their society. You know, okay, I wake up some days and I think, right, okay, it's winter, our electricity is really limited, and I'm going to make sure that the batteries that we've got are going to supply enough electricity. But you guys get your electricity off the national grid, but you pay for your electricity. I don't. So even though I would like to have my time a little bit more productive, instead of making sure that we've got enough electricity, right? I'm not having to go out and work those hours to pay for the electricity, right? So, but these people, the lives of these people are similar to that sort of analogy, right? Their time is more valuable than our time, right? Except when I sit down and talk to people about my life, they say, how can you look after sheep and then be an actor and then teach online, and then do your TikTok and YouTube videos and then see your children and do all this? And I say, I do, because I try to make the most out of my time, right? I don't have the luxury time because I don't have those luxuries like these people. They didn't have that luxurious time either. Now, we this is another point, and again, this is really a lot in this today, to be honest with you. And hopefully we can get to the same level of where we were last night with Tuesday. A cobble knife, and you're thinking, right, okay, they're creating iron knives on site. They're creating copper bronze brooches. They've got they got pipes, right? Why are they using cobble knives? And you're just thinking, why not? You know, just because we're in the Iron Age, and I said this so many times, doesn't mean to say that they stopped using things that they had used for thousands of years. Right, cobble knife. What is a cobble knife? What's this for? What could it be used for? Is it like a small form of axe, whatever? But you're thinking, well, this looks a bit crude. This is sort of obviously Neolithic, but it's not. It's an object that these people are using because they were familiar with using it. It's like, oh God, how can I think of it? Okay, we all have cups of tea because we're used to it, right? We could have camp coffee, you know. We could have Tai Chi, you know. We could have all these different things, but we're still drinking our cups of tea, right? It's the same with these types of people. Weird little metaphor. And I'm thinking that wooden shovel object that was found in was it Dartmoor, Henry, or whatever it was? Did it look something like this? Is it a paddle-like object? What is this object? You know, and again, it's all about archaeological interpretation. And a large sandstone bar. What the hell's a sandstone bar? What do these things mean? Maybe they were objects that they traded. Maybe they have. Maybe they're multifunctional. Maybe there's a lot more going on here. Maybe, and this is the thing. Some of the things we're saying, this is what this is for, and some of the things we're saying, maybe, and think, don't have a clue, right? Now, in comparison, these people are able to create chain link, right? Chain link, small washer-like links, right? They don't need to go through the effort. They can have a copper ring, they can have a bronze ring, a gold ring, right? They can have any ring, but they actually still choose to go through the energy of creating rings, bracelets of stone, right? That can only tell you two things. The economy is more diverse than we think, and maybe there's three things really. Maybe they understand a richer life, your utilitarian life, and also they might have some more luxury time to create these things because they are now able to smelt copper and bronze and all these different things, right? And they are appreciating. Yeah, it would be great, you know, it would be great that, you know, instead of going out buying a wedding ring made of gold, silver, or whatever, right? How about having a wedding ring that's made of stone, a wedding ring made of wood, right? These people had rings and things made of objects that we don't really utilize today. When was the last time you saw somebody wearing a stone ring, right? Anyone? No. People, it's now fashionable to wear, if you can get a blue jet bracelet, oh my God, but that's going to put you back a little bit. But again, this is, I think what we've got, what we see today is more of a market to appreciate things that they appreciated in the past. If you go onto Etsy, people produce everything, right? Now, this is a comb, right, made of stone, a siltstone comb, right? It's a siltstone comb, right? Or is it a comb? What type of comb is this? Is it a comb for creating an impression on pottery, right? Is it for scraping skins? Is it for maybe brushing hair or a beard? I can give you another thing that this could be, right? If you found this in North America, places like Newfoundland, or maybe places like Greenland, this could actually be a map. Each of those little prongs indicate the contours of the coastline. I'm not saying that that's what this is, but if this was found somewhere else, that's what this would be. The way native peoples in other parts of the world, they did have maps. They would say, okay, if that's where we are. Hang on a minute, let's get that back on. That is where we are now, right? That little headland there, I want you to meet me by there in that little valley, right? And this is like a coastal map. It works in North America. Probably this is not what this is, but it could be. And again, it opens your mind, right? The biggest problem is when archaeologists like me, Alice Roberts, Bethany Hughes, Mary Beard, all these people, Neil Oliver, when we get excited about things, we say, this is definitely this, right? Or maybe we should think about these things differently, right? And we look at these two objects a little bit later. We've got a clearer image, right? This is a steelite bracelet fragment, right? Again, this has been carved out of stone, right? And it's hexagonal in form. It's a shame we don't have a cross section of this. They've gone through a massive amount of effort to create this, right? It'd be far easier to just adorn a bronze bracelet, right? It's an incredible amount of effort's gone into carving the steatite, right? And when you think about it, if you go in, obviously you've got to mine the material for copper and you've got to bring the zinc in. Yeah, we've got evidence of brass, so we've got evidence of zinc, which makes things a bit more interesting. With Scatness, we've got evidence of zinc, and we're thinking, oh right, okay. So the amount, say, to create a fairly nice, bracelet, we're going to need to have enough draw off the furnace to then create this, right? And maybe in a mold. And guess what? We've got loads of molds that have been found at Scatness as well. And this is probably going to take longer than it is to create this in metal, but they choose to make this in stone rather than in metal, right? What is this telling us? Again, you can think about that yourself. Now, I really regret not getting these clearer on the screen. I really regret not actually having this a little bit more clearer. But what you've got is, I'm going to keep them as they are. The one in the top, one in the top corner, you can clearly see like a checkerboard format on that, and the thickness, and you can see that these marked on both sides. Siltstone scrapers, but a checkerboard thing on the top left hand corner, that's not a scraper. You know, what are these things? And just think of the size. This isn't a miniature game, is it? It's a small piece of stone, siltstone. Quite, it's not. You know, siltstone, you're not going to get your finger and go into the siltstone. You can have a blunt finger. You need to have something quite hard. You need to make an impression, right? What is this about? What is this saying? Now, this is rather interesting. Now, you can see that this is like a motive design, and no doubt, they've looked at this and said, ah, right, you know, it's a sandstone's counter, right? But let's not counter that argument and say this could be money. They didn't have money. It's perfectly acceptable, isn't it, to wander around with a cow in your pocket and you know, a few birds up your sleeve and wandering in through a village? The answer is no, it's not, right? Surely these people thought about trading in things other than animals and food, because, you know, it's the type of thing an archaeologist said, isn't it? Right, okay. Before money, what did they do? Right, okay. They obviously carried a bag full of rabbits around with them. Hey, Richard, can I have some bread? Here's a rabbit. Anne, can I have some of that? You know, a bale of hay for the sheep, right? So I'll give her a rabbit, right? How are you going to carry? You know, it's just some of this stuff that we tell people is just doesn't make sense sometimes, right? Again, it's not very clear. Herringbone design on there, sort of, there it is. And again, what is going on these stones? But look at this, and look at this, right? And you're starting to say, look at that. So what are these things here? What are these dots and circles and daubs and swirls? Now, this is really, really interesting. Again, more stones found at this site. Quite a thin piece of material, right? And as you zoom in on this, you start to see that things open up, right? What is this? This is different from this, right? And what is this over here? Oh, and then you've got all these scraggly lines everywhere, right? And what's somebody doing here? The point is, you could say, oh, it's just somebody scribbling things on stone, right? But then again, there's loads of them that have been found on site. It's not just an accidental thing, right? You know, and again, you started, okay, Karl, is this a form of writing, right? And is this a form of record keeping? Linear A, linear B, Minoan civilization. Of course, it's record keeping, right? The linear A and linear B, we weren't able to translate this stuff for decades when it was found, and we said, oh, it's just somebody just having a laugh, right? And then it then turns out to mean something. It then turns out to be a conversation with us, story with us, picture book. Now, I once said to my children, I said, look, children, I'm going to write a book one day. It's going to have a beautiful cover. It's going to have a beautiful back of the book, and you're going to open the book, and there's going to be nothing in it. That tells a story in itself. Or you just have a book which has just images in it. I know that's been done, right? But this is the same as this, right? Except we don't understand it. I've mentioned this before. Goff will know what I'm talking about. There's a radio play that's out there, which was done quite some years ago by Andrew Sachs, and I think it goes on for a whole hour, and it's about a murder that's happened, right? And it goes on, right? You know what's going on by all the sounds and all the bumps and all the levels of, but there's no talking. Nobody's telling you that this has happened. and you can work out from all that a murder has occurred, right? There's not a single word being said. What I'm trying to say is that we are used to, in modern day society, having things placed on a plate in front of us. And in fact, we're not really thinking enough. We are too blind. You know, a confession, right? When I go to look at how my videos on YouTube are doing and how my TikToks are doing, if anyone's commented on stuff, right? I'm occasionally watching brain dead stuff on TikTok and YouTube, but when I wake up in the morning and I think, right, stop it. What's it communicating to you? Right? I want to really read what people are communicating. But then I realized that these people who are actually creating these things are actually trying to communicate anyway. You know, it's all about that conversation, but it doesn't have to be naturally as obvious as we wish it to be at times. Now, I'm loving this object, right? It's quite thin. All of these little objects are quite thin. I notice that they are quite thin because usually when you think this isn't Neolithic on Bronze Age stuff, this is obviously Iron Age stuff, 2,000 odd years ago. If you've got something quite small like that, you can carry it around with you, right? So what's the difference between a Vindolanda tablet and this object? The Vindolanda tablets, we understand what's going on with the Vindolanda tablets. And they're similar to these. They're made of wood instead of stone, right? These are made of stone, so obviously they can't be anything other than crap. Okay, the Roman stuff is on wood, so that's a load of crap as well. Neither of them are crap. Both of them are telling us a message broadcast from the past to us to not illuminate us. It's just saying something, right? You know, it's going to be very sad when the likes of David Attenborough goes, because he spent his life communicating about animals, right? And he's communicated that in so many different ways. And many times, he's not even opened his mouth once. And this is what these people are doing in the past. We understand what he's saying. We now need to understand what these people are saying. And the next piece is very, very intriguing. I'll keep going for a little bit, and then we'll have a break, and then I really want us to finish. We'll probably finish about 20 past tonight, because I do want to get home to my sheeps, right, before I get too tired. So we're gonna so we will have a little bit of a break, but not too much. I'll scoff a chocolate bar, and all provided by the BBC. But we'll do this a moment. So what we've got little pebbles. Yeah, there we go. Painted pebbles with these designs on them. Now, excuse me, we do this today. Adults and children put designs on stones, lie them around the place. You take a photograph, put that on Facebook and say, I've seen a stone, and somebody says, that's the stone that I put there. Then you pick up the stone and put it somewhere else. What are they doing? We use them today to give a message, and they are seen as a message. They're telling us something. So what's the difference between these things that are created in the Iron Age, right? But these pebbles are quite small, almost gravel-like, right? So the maximum length of this pebble, I'm just working out with my fingers here. There's a tiny pebble. It's painted, and what they've done with this, they've got their ochres, and they've obviously mixed it with oils, and the oils themselves would almost drag the ochre into the sandstone. And then what they would then do, maybe they might use a crude fixative like egg white or something. The type of stuff that the old skinheads used to put on their hair. And then what they would do, they would heat this up in an oven, or they would just heat this up just on the edge of the fire, right? And then the image of these things which are swirls and the odd dots. These are fixed in the stone forever. It's a bit like using a gloss paint, which you can scrape off with a Brillo pad. This ain't going to scrape off with a Brillo pad anytime soon. And you start to think, hang on a minute, right? Their sense of permanence without knowing it is more permanent than our sense of permanence, right? And in a way, locking in a message on a stone in a fire is a very powerful instrument of broadcasting a message. And as we see, look at this, another painted pebble, different color pebbles, and that's the point, different color pebbles with different ochres, right? They've gone out their way to these little pebbles. And you know, somebody said, oh, is this like a little talk stone? You know, is it did everybody have one of these? Okay, let's talk completely nuts, right? Maybe this is a passport, right? And this basically says, well, you know, I'm from over there. You know, this is what my each of my children has a pebble like this, so they are my children. That doesn't sound as mad as it sounds, right? It makes sense, right? You know, we got these weird designs on here, and if we go to this, obviously it's not as good when it's black and white, is it? But again, you get an idea of these pebble sizes. You know, they're not big. I wish they hadn't used well, if they said gravel, it wouldn't have sounded as good. But again, they've got these found across the site, and I tell you what, your Scatness, this one site, you're spoiled. It's like one or two of those Neolithic sites that we've done in the past, and yeah, it's when people are spoiled when they think about Stonehenge, and I think, look, go to other places. There's a lot more as well. But we're obsessing over this place because it tells us more than probably any Iron Age site that I know of. I'm not saying there aren't any, there are, but there's a lot there, and I've been there and I've done work on it. Another painted pebble again. What is this? Is a Picasso-like pebble. Again, these are small, and it's not as if they're big things. And by the way, you know, just sort of do that and yeah, mix it with this, and then we'll just put it on the side of the fire, and well, it's just a bit of fun. But there's loads of these being found across the site. It's not a bit of fun. It's something. It's like that broken final record. And again, that's a very important thought, a very important way of thinking, right? Again, these ain't two brilliant images; they're a bit sort of faded, but to me, when you look at these, it's almost as if you're looking at amber, and you're thinking about objects. Are they fobbing these off as amber? Maybe I'm just jesting with you, but again, replication of nature is something that humans do very, very well, and or we see in nature something that we can use. And this is also, nature provides us with these things, right? And then humans think we can do the same. We can broadcast what nature is showing and telling us. So again, more of these designs, and again, it's again, you don't see these things on most Iron Age sites. You just don't see them. It's just not there, right? So maybe we're missing a story that we can see here. We're missing a story at the sites. Yeah, we'll have. I think we'll hang on. Oh, we'll have a break on that one. So last night I said they look like little creatures and things. Or what are they? Or is it like looking into a pool, and there's like a mirror image coming at you, and you know, when you look at some pools, you don't really see a reflection, right, from the moonlight and stuff and whatever. Mate, what is this? And again, or is it nothing? But no. That's not what I'm saying. Uh, it it is something. It's not nothing. It is something. It is something, right? It can't be nothing because there's too many of these things to be nothing. Yeah, I do saying they did these things for the sake of it, right? But there's a certain level that you do things for the sake of it, and there's no meaning. That there is actually meaning because there's lots of them. You could do something by accident, like Stonehenge, and we make a lot of that. There's only one Stonehenge. And there's loads of stone circles. And again, this is a bit of a metaphor again. Again, these tiny little things. And when we think about Neolithic, start again, get my words out. When we think about Neanderthal people, we think about how Neanderthal. Okay, we look at Neanderthals, and we've done this, haven't we? The Neanderthals invented everything, right? Other than Liddles, they did everything, right? And they didn't make statues of Lloyd George. But other than that, the Neanderthals were first with everything, right? And we look at painted stones that the Neanderthals did, painted shells, cave painters that the Neanderthals did. And we say, this must mean this, look how important this is. Look how important these objects are from the Iron Age. And again, we don't give this level of archaeology enough presentation from a period that is much more illuminated than meets the eye. Do you know one thing I used to say, which I'm probably regretting now? There was more illumination in the Dark Ages than there had been in the prehistoric world in Britain. And I am so sorry I said that, because I am so wrong. Even just looking at Scatness. And I think I mean by that in Dark Ages that there's a lot more writing around. So we know, and we can transcribe and understand, but is this their way of saying something which makes a non-prehistoric world a light world instead of being a dark world? And again, painted pebbles. Do you know what, right? I'd actually love to just sit down and, okay, if me and Michelle ever do go back out to Shetland, right? Probably won't leave, but if we ever do go back out to Shetland, I'll basically say, right, can I have an hour? Well, two actually. Can I have 2 hours with all these little stones on the table, and just do the stones, forget everything else because I couldn't cope with it all. And then we'll do this after the after the break. An annular amber bead, right? Annular, as rather than penannular, right? Annular, but we've got a bead, right? We got all these different things after the break, which we'll do, and iron stuff. And maybe what I might do is, I don't want to rush, right? I'm actually flowing, but I need, as I say, I want to end about 20 past tonight. Pat's also got to get to bed. I'm just going to check the time a minute because I don't know what time it is. It's 8:28, so we're gonna have I don't know, a 10-minute break, and then we'll just do the last 40 minutes, and that'll be good. Right, stop the share, and we're going to see if there's any questions. And I wish I had some water with me. Bloody hell. Anne, anything you want to say, darling?
Yeah, they are becoming. They're becoming. The more we see, the more, creative they look. They're not just found items. I think they are found, but I mean, I think
They're
that
not just objects. They are something.
there's something going on there. Some,
yes,
some interaction with the piece. and it's fascinating. Wonder,
Yes, it is. It is.
yeah.
It definitely is fascinating. Anything from you, Goff?
No, no questions, Matt. I'm just saying, very attractive, pretty artifacts they are, aren't they? Very nice.
And they're small.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Goff. Goff, I'm going to ask you, do you prefer Goff with one F? Because you sign Goff with one F. Why have you got Goff with two Fs?
It's Goff with two Fs.
But you sign Goff, when you send me an email, you say GOF.
No, I don't.
I got to bloody check now. I'm checking, right? I'm checking. Anne, shut up. Yeah, hang on. Goff. I double check now. You're on my phone as Goff with one F. Right, Anne. Speak. I'm confused now. Right. I'm gonna look it up.
You need
Anything from you?
water.
I do, Anne. I'm trying to get my bloody words out. Yeah. Right. Anything you want to say, lovely Henry?
No, quite intrigued by the carvings on the stones.
Mm.
So am I.
I just wonder if a bit of AI technology might be needed.
And yeah, they don't do enough with this stuff in Shetland, even though this stuff is absolutely amazing, and I think that they should. And again, it goes to this, right? When I look at the publication that the Scottish Society of Antiquaries that I belong to publishes their publication, they say, "Oh, Mike Parker Pearson has had £2,000 to do more research in Stonehenge," and I'm thinking, why are they giving £2,000 to an Englishman to do research on Stonehenge?
Mm.
Why this money could be used on doing research into these things? It's very frustrating.
Mm.
Very frustrating.
Yeah.
Right, okay, and Richard, quick, anything?
No, very interesting.
Good.
That's about it.
And by the way, I think I got some water in a boot. I'm gonna go and find it now. Pat.
I'm with Richard. It was interesting, and I like the little trinkets because I like little things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, you usually come up with bag loads of stuff when we used to go away. Right. Okay then, including rubbers. Yeah. Did you went in the shop at the Tomb of the Eagles on Orkney? Did you buy any stuff from there, like pens or rubbers or stuff?
I bought something.
I want you to find out what it is, because it'd be nice to see what you got, because obviously it's closed now. So
I know it was a lovely place because you could actually touch the stuff. She lets you handle
exactly,
it. Amazing.
exactly.
Uh,
It's the only place that Kathy got so excited to handle a human skull.
oh, don't remember that.
Yeah, she was right into that bit. She was right into that bit. It's the closest she's got to human company for years. I could have said that. Right. Okay then. Right. It's
Right.
it's 8:33. I tell you what. I want us to be back at 8:40. You got 7 minutes, guys. Now bugger off.
Okay.
Okay.
We've got to start now, and they're all not there. I got to ask Anne what her latest washing machine model is.
Got Gladiator 2 next month.
What's coming out? Is it? Oh my God! Yes, you need to remind me because I want to go and see that.
Yeah.
Let me know when it comes close to the time. Yeah, I don't want to write it down, but yeah, I want to go and see that.
Where do you watch that? In Carmarthen?
Oh, Carmarthen! I tell you what, Carmarthen's so easy. There's so much bloody parking. You could lie on the bloody, it's just the car parking. It's all on the flat, and you just then walk to the cinema, which is just 2 minutes away. It's all open plan, and then two popcorns each, two drinks each. Cinema's really nice. It's not packed like the ones in Cardiff, and Bridgen's not too busy, but ones like in Cardiff are, and it's really nice.
Yeah, good, very good.
Well, to be honest with you, you're paying for this. You want a good experience, and it is.
God, yeah. Well, it's quite cheap anyway. Because I'm over.
Yeah.
I get a discount. Old age pensioner.
I get a discount, but I'm not telling you why. I tell you that right. I get a discount. And the reason why we buy the popcorn and the drink is because I feel so guilty that obviously I don't. Yeah, I gotta say I don't want to be taking the piss, and if it wasn't for people like you, then we wouldn't have a film industry. So yeah, so we give back anyway. So we're paying with the stuff we buy what we would pay for the 2 tickets anyway. So
good for you.
So I just think it's fair. Yeah, because I can do it, and I am looking. For the first time, I'm going to go and see a film that I've actually got a role in, and when Downton Abbey 3 comes out, I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, right. Yes.
Didn't you go to the BAFTAs, the Welsh Cymru?
And I'm not that big a bloody actor. I'm still a grunt.
I was
But
looking
anyway,
for
we're
you.
all back. We're all back. We've got to crack on. God, we haven't got all night. And I said we were supposed to be back like 4 hours ago, but no, you had different plans. Don't mind me. The grass is growing under your feet. We've got all bloody day, Anne. It's fine. Oh, and by the way, this isn't me asking, right? Goff wanted to know what washing machine model you've got.
Sorry?
What washing machine model have you got?
Oh, a Hot Point.
All right, he's got a hot point. That's good. How long have you had that for then?
Oh, only a couple of years.
Yeah, that's enough information, and we're going to crack on. Right, so obviously we've got amber objects that have been found on the site. Again, one thing I said earlier on was that either it's made in the locality, or the stuff has come from a long way, and this is basically, giving you the overview, and we've got sort of bead fragments, sort of making the stuff into an ovoid amber bead fragment. So obviously you can see where this there was a little bit more amber on top, and there's the line that goes through it. So it's a bead, right? So this amber's come from where Königsberg, off the coast of Königsberg, sort of modern day Poland. Oh no, Königsberg is part of the Russian bit, isn't it? But anyway, the old East Prussia, and so it's come all the way down there. This trade link, and there's lots of links and ideas with trade with the Scatness site. And yes, shears, iron shears being found excavated at Scatness. And to be honest with you, these are exactly the same shears. Well, the design of these shears is very similar to the shears that I used in filming on Downton Abbey 3. So the design doesn't change. The ones I've got are stainless steel, right? They're still iron, and these are iron objects, and there they are. And obviously something written over, found on examples of this found, for example, at Must Farm. And again, the design of the shears is universal. It's not the only object, but it's one of the only objects that I can immediately say, just like that, the design has not changed in 2, 3, 4,000 years, because it's a design that's not broke. It still works today. Again, finding this in the archaeology, and again, it must be pretty good iron because it's there still, actually I'd love to handle that, but that's something else. Now we're on to the manufacture. We've got evidence. How do we know these things were made on site? Not because of the staining, and evidence in the soil of a thermal shock, discoloration of the clays, the sands, and the stone. But also we've got molds. We've got molds for pins that have been made on site, molds for various objects that have been made on site. So this is a nice little bronze pin, and somebody said, well, it looks like it looks like a tent hook, and you're thinking, well, actually I've got tent hooks that look like this, and you're thinking, think about roofs and temporary roofs and being able to use this place, and you're thinking, it slowly starts to come together. And look at that. Okay, 2,000 years ago, the Romans had the idea of chain link was starting to be developed in the Roman world, or had already been developed in other parts of the world. And you're thinking, well, these people actually made chain links as well at Scatness. And you're thinking, right, okay, is there anything these people didn't do? And it's amazing. Bronze chain links, and then the Romans used iron chain links that are really badly corroded, but these bronze chain links have survived. And I tell you what, right? I in my house, I've got a on the wall, and seen it. Richard's seen it. We've got a chain link vest, right, which is sort of an iron chain link vest. These were bronze chain links. I'm not saying it's chain link vest, right? But they got these little miniature chain links. Did they wear these as jewelry? Did they have this connected to something that they had hanging from them? And is this to do with some kind of defense thing? But they did it. They've got this technology, and this is rather interesting. This ties us next week as well. That we've got what's known as a fibula brooch, which is exactly the same design as a fibula brooch that would have been found at the Ditches site, which is north of Cirencester, that we're going to look at next week. And look at that, a double linked chain. Now, come on, Anne, let's bring you into this. Surely you've gone out with a nice, really nice, beautiful dress with a double chain linked belt. You must have.
I never had a waist. No.
Oh well, I haven't. I've got a chain link belt, but I think my mother may have had a double linked chain belt.
Yeah,
right? It was like a 60s thing.
Yeah,
it was the 60s thing. But hang on, Anne. That's a 60s thing. This is like 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a yeah. So what's going on? So let's just try and work this out a minute, right? You've got a double chain link belt, which is actually more fetching than the ones in the 1960s. They may have been iron chain links and sprayed and stuff. This is a gleaming bronze chain link belt, and you're thinking, right, okay, so if you put a bit of clothing underneath that, right, in the Iron Age, and you do this in the 1960s, right, where's the difference in what you're looking at in regards to a woman, right? And you're just thinking these people are so close in their technology and what we're using and fashion. It's so
Well,
odd.
we copy things in the past.
We have,
It might not have been Iron Age. It might have been like Roman or Greek influence,
yes, yes,
but
yes.
they were influenced by somebody. Yeah, I mean, it's
You're right.
it's sort of a thing, isn't it, that people have thought of through the ages, have kind of made through the ages.
Yeah, you are 100% right, because when they're excavating in Naples in the late 1740s, 1750s, they're copying those styles, and our architects are copying those styles. Actually, the great example of somebody copying styles is Edward I when he's building exactly replica castles that are in the Middle East, in North Wales, as far as you can possibly get, and again, it's copying. It's broadcasting that message of replication and reusing the styles.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at again, back to this, we got crucible fragments, bits of crucible. The crucible is going to be the thing that's used to heat up the ore if you're using a crucible, and then you can get tongs and you can pour that into molds, and the molds are the types of things that we're actually finding on site. So there's a mold, intact half of a mold. You can think that that's a ring, a pin. What is going on here? It's a very odd shape thing, but what you can see, it's a mold. Whatever this is for, it's a mold. Again, I'm saying, what the hell is this for? And you're thinking, right, okay, pour something into this, and you can work out what it's for, right? Whether they're double molds or this is the mold that you just pour in, right, as it's molten, right? So you'd have one flat side and you have one form side. Or it would actually be a two-piece mold, whatever, right? It's a mold. Let's not go there. It's a mold, right? And again, it's this thing that what you see on site is not half a picture or a bit of a picture. You know when we talk about a jigsaw, right? We talk about the past is like a jigsaw. You've got to usually, right? An Iron Age site, you think of an Iron Age site where we've got 100 pieces of the 10,000 piece jigsaw with us. And we've got to try and work out what's going on. Let's think of Scatness having 2,000 pieces of the 10,000 piece jigsaw, and maybe 4,000 pieces. And then our picture is well, you can work out what's going on from that. If you've got like a 10,000 piece jigsaw, right, and you've got 2,000 bits of you've done it, guys, haven't you? You've had a 10,000 piece jigsaw, you've done the middle bit, and you thought, all right, that's 2,000 pieces. I can't be bothered. I can work out it's a Sherman tank with a German soldier running towards it. Right, that's it. I used to have one of them, by the way, and I couldn't do any more because it was just too big. Anyway, I had an idea what I was doing, right? And it also, in a way, it's like having the 10,000 piece jigsaw with actually the design almost sketched out for you to try and reconstruct the past, which is not the type of jigsaw. Usually we get that metaphor of a jigsaw with 100 pieces of a 10,000 piece jigsaw, and we don't have a clue what's going on, and we try to make it up, and maybe that goes there, that's a bit of a border, a bit of the blue sky, that's fine. But with this one, we've almost got a template, and this is so amazing, right? A lozenge shaped mold. What is this lozenge-shaped mold? What is it? And there's so many bits of molds that have been found at the site. Again, it's not saying, oh, where were these things made? They were made there. That's it. End of story. Right? There's no other argument. What were they using on site? Well, the objects that they made. And it's as sometimes you think, oh, that's a bit boring, we've got all the answers. But then when we've got those answers, we can ask more questions, right? We've gone on to another level, another level. It's like somebody with OCD. You unpick the OCD and there's another OCD and there's another OCD, right? It's in reverse, but this is what we're talking about, right? Little bits of objects as well. Possible brooch spring, right? Springs for brooches. They making these types of things on site. And then we go on to the things that maybe they didn't create on site, or maybe they did. But some of the objects on site, like the multi coloured bits of bangle fragments and so on. And I've just realised I got a load more to go through, and let's just see what we can do. So we got all these bits, and I'm thinking, like, did these objects, these glass objects, these fragmentary glass objects, bits of a glass bangle. Now, I remember a family member having a glass bangle when I was a child. I remember that. You can't buy them anymore. I don't know why. Probably because they're damn right bloody dangerous. And they shatter and they go everywhere, right? I can remember one family member having a glass bangle, right? I can remember that. I think it was my mum. But you're thinking of this object. Did they have the technology to make these things at Scatness? I would say yes. Sorry, I'm not arguing with anyone. They did, right? Because they were able to do everything else. They were able to understand kilns, temperature. They were obviously able to smelt glass. Or what they may have done is we know that they've got Roman age glass objects going to the site, right? Those Roman age glass objects went to the site, and they actually broke, and they recycled them. They melted them all down and made their own glass, which is, that's great. We know they did that in Roman era Britain, so they probably did that here as well, right? And that's the point. Multicolored bangle fragment as well, and you're getting that sense of spiraling effect, other types of technology that you find everywhere else. And you find this illumination, you find this color, you find it broadcasting from outside the world into this site, and then they're then broadcasting back out again, right? Did this object come from 1,000 miles away? And even if it did come from 1,000 miles away, if it broke, they were probably able to make this recycle this on site. One of the things that we're not really going to get is blue glass beads, because the lapis lazuli, that is right, isn't that? That's blue. That type of blue stuff, you're not really going to find it in the likes of Shetland. Or then again, you might be able to obtain some kinds of blues through woad. You might be able to find, but obviously, is that going to stick within the sense of a glacial silica type glass? But obviously, this again gives you an idea of a trade with of these things ending up here, all the way from the Holy Land, all the way through to this site at Scatness. Again, beads, glass beads, again, more things that these people had. And you know what? Let's just, as it's in my head, we've got evidence that these people actually had glass bowls.
Bowls?
Bowls, as in beakers, bowls.
Oh.
So in other words, out of all the material they've got, they've even got glass. We got Pyrex, but they didn't have that. But other than that, they've got glass. They've got glass bowls. We'll come on to that before the end, because I just got to try and read through this now. So we've got one of the things I said with Scatness and the site at Baggerden in Gloucestershire, Cirencester, was they got bone objects, bone pins. Well, I handled them anyway, but this itself is actually a bone comb. So we know what a bone comb is, but we've seen a stone comb, right? So obviously lots of the bits have been lost, but you can obviously see the designs of these two, the one at the top left and the one at the bottom as well, like crisscrosses on them. Now, okay, there's a point to be made here. If they're deliberately putting crisscross designs on these, right? So the other image that we've seen with the stones, well, yeah, how are they accidental? They they must have put them deliberately on the stones as well, right? And again, these objects surviving long-headed combs which they found on the site. And one of the things I mentioned last night, right? Obviously we've got more time on a Tuesday, but obviously with you guys. But one thing that we've got here is I was looking at that and I was studying this and I'm thinking, right, okay, what are the natural bits of where? What's that?
There's a face there.
A face.
Hair, nose, mouth, and eyes.
Well, there's something.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that one there.
Like an eccles.
You see that there?
Something, yeah, as a
There's
hand.
that one there. You can see a design there where you've actually got an eye there, and you've got the rest of the face. That's not what I was going to say, but oh my God, that I don't know what you're looking at, but you're looking at that.
That's right. Yeah.
Like a foot.
Oh, hang on, I'm going to do my one. Hang on a minute. I didn't see this. Look at that there. Anyway, look, that's not my point, but obviously if you're seeing things, that is really good. I could see what he's saying. Actually, the point I was going to make, because you've thrown me there, I've thrown myself because it's not what I was going to say, but what I was going to say was something similar. Anyway, thank you for that. We're going to need to look at that one. But anyway, the point is that what I was going to make is that these marks exactly in the area that he's saying there's a face, right? Those have been done deliberately, whereas natural marks of wear might be seen as these types of things, right? And the little picking and pocking on the surface, but there's deliberate stuff on this, right? As we've just mentioned. Again, we haven't got more time to look at that and really have a good look. But the point to be made is that there is a deliberate sense of making these things decorative. Okay. Forget about that. Anyway, so I got some. The problem is now I'm getting a bit of tiswas because we have got we're a little bit behind. So right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say this, right? There's something. This is a triangular stone that's associated with lintel which is associated with the Brock at Scatness. There's something towards the end that I want to show you about that, but we'll move on. We've seen that. And then what we've got is a bit of a fragment of a penannular brooch. Now, basically, a penannular brooch is basically something that's like that, right? And they got a pin that goes across. That's the penannular brooch, and they're perfect for making cloaks, and that for fastening cloaks. And that's a fragment of penannular brooch, which were very popular in the Roman era world and the Iron Age world at the same time. Right, and that there, the one on the right, is the remains of another penannular brooch, and that there, the one on the left, is actually a fibula brooch that was actually found on the site. And the point is to be made with that is that it's definitely a Roman design, right? But the Romans never ever got to Shetland in any way, shape, or form. But what you can clearly see is it's as you look at snippets from this book, you can find little metal objects with loops and pins that have been found on the site. The typical an iron knife, an iron razor, right? I wouldn't study shave with that, but again, this design itself, when you're looking and you're looking at the mountpiece of metal on the right hand side, um, you these are the types of knives that my grandparents would have used with bone or wooden handles, right? And it's something that we some of us have still got in our houses, you know. It's a design that hasn't lost us. Now, what we've got, this is rather interesting. Across the site, what we've got is bar fragments, bits of metal that are ready to be hammered, right? So they're manufacturing this stuff at the site, or they're bringing bar fragments onto the site to smelt. Whatever was going on, this is a major site of metal, either recycling, production. We talk a lot about this when we think about the Viking period, but this is a site when we think about hoards from the Viking period, you know, silver hoards, and we're thinking, oh, you know, they're going to take this stuff away to they're going to take this material away, and they're going to smelt it down, and you know they're going to make new silver objects at this site. We've got all the evidence that they're recycling, they're making. We've got the molds, they got the you know, they got the kilns, they got the furnace, everything's going on there, right? And this takes us into another direction, right? These people had nails, iron nails. That might not sound significant, right? But it is when you're building a roof, and it is when you're building a door, and it is when you need studs for a door, and it is when you need in anything made of wood, a handle for things, right? So these people had iron nails. We found loads of iron nails at the site, right? Oh yeah, when we look at Roman sites, we find loads of hobnails, and we find lots of structural nails, right? And if you look at in Churchill, the Roman fort, they found a ton of iron nails buried at the site, right? But these Iron Age people had loads of nails hanging around the site as well. So you stand to think, oh right, so nails, floor levels, partitions, roofs, right? Everything that the Roman era world had, but these people were also manufacturing them as well. Now, let's look at these objects. Curved bar fragments. Obviously, this looks a little bit like piping, but there's another image coming up as well, which proves it once and for all. Right, and make sure I got, oh, there it is, next. And when you think about these sheets of copper alloy, these could be used to line the wooden buckets, right? Just as the Romans and the Anglo-Saxons did. In the Anglo-Saxon world, we find lots of bits of copper sheeting like this, which were used for internally and externally for wooden buckets, right? You could clad statues with these things in the Roman world, right? But there's loads of evidence of this scattered across the site. You know, lining all sorts of things that we would just think of the Roman world. The Iron Age world had it as well. And there you go. What did I tell you earlier on? Wound and curved copper alloy fragments. If that's not a piece of piping, I don't know what is. Pipes. They had piping. They were able to create pipes. There's two sections there, 9-2 and 3-2, and 9-0, half of a pipe of 15, and 8-3, right? 22, half a pipe. So you're thinking that these people are closer to us than meets the eye. And they've got wire fragments as well. So wire for bounding around things, you know, you've got a sweeping brush. Well, you can actually use rope for that. But the point is that these people have got the technology, the civilized technology that if I tell you what, take all this stuff together and dump it at Vindolanda, and it'd all say that the Romans produced this stuff, right? These people produced it. They produced all this tech. They produced it all. And look at that. Fragments of a painted glass vessel, which will be taking us on to next week. But painted glass, and we'll look at this next week. Painted glass found at the site. So you've got these. It's very likely these people had painted glass bowls. One broke, and then this is what's left of the fragments that they didn't use, and then they made other glass objects. And you're thinking there as well. Hang on, I think we got. There we go. A fragment of a decorated glass vessel rim. Okay, and you know it's blow your mind time. It really, really is. And look at that there. Part of a glass vessel. Now these are all different vessels. So it's more than one glass bowl that they had. They had more than one. How many of us have got glass bowls in the house?
Me.
Maybe you've got a crystal glass bowl, but I haven't.
I have.
Yeah, well, you
With
bloody
my-
would, wouldn't you?
My mother, I had one from my mother who got it as a present, and one from my aunt.
Exactly.
You know,
But the
they
point is,
were presents, yeah.
Hang on, Anne, you're using the wrong terminology. They're luxury items. I haven't got anything like that.
Yeah, it was a gift, you know, like
Exactly.
a presentation. So, no,
And-
I haven't got glass. I haven't personally, you know, I didn't buy one.
The thing is, they're very precious objects. Obviously, more of these glass beads, and then you think of blue glass beads. I've spoken about my blue glass beads in my Roman book. When you find blue glass beads, it's usually likely that these beads have actually come from the Holy Land or northern Egypt or somewhere like that. And obviously great trade links across Europe. And tying directly in bone pins. And obviously you've got bone objects, bone pins that are found also at the Roman site that we're going to mention next week, the Ditches, which is in Gloucestershire, north of Cirencester. Lots of these bone pins. So again, you're thinking, right, they got iron pins, they got copper pins, they got bone pins, right? And just think, let's chuck it in there. There's no evidence of it, but why couldn't they have had glass pins? You know what I mean? It's there. Wooden pins as well, you know. And there we go, bone pointers with triangular
Well,
designs on these things. Yeah.
I thought,
And look at that there. That looks. If you look at that, there is intense carving on that, right? And I tell you what, this is a Viking object, and it's not, right? If you notice that those linear lines there, and you're looking at that, and you're looking at how this is shaped, is some kind of pattern across this thing, over there as well. And again, this is not accidental. This is deliberate. And you can see the chevron type designs on that one. Again, bone being incised. And look at that, a bone pointer. What is a bone pointer? Could a bone pointer like this? Okay, maybe it was used for hunting, or maybe it was used for something around the house. You know, there's just so many angles that you can think of these objects and try to move on. And again, decorative carving. So this is bone. This is again bone that's been carved. They're carving these weird things in bone. And look at that there. A decorative bone plaque. We basically we got the scale bone plaque, which has been excavated on the island of Sanday in Orkney, right? And you're looking at that, then thinking those designs are very specific, sort of Viking age design, but obviously these are Iron Age designs. Usually it's mentioning whalebone being used there as well. And this is, as I mentioned earlier on, the remains of a whalebone vessel. Pat saw a whalebone vessel in the bowels of the University of Highlands and Islands laboratory down below, right? And it's basically a bowl made of whalebone, right? Again, absolutely fascinating. And this is something else. You think of that, a finely worked bead, but if you turn it to the next one, a toggle. Now, I used to have a duffer coat when I was a child, and guess what I had on the duffer coat? Toggles. It was full of toggles, and it starts to make you think, well, you know, a bit of material, right? Forget about the arms, a bit of material down the front. You've got loops, the other side toggles. Somebody put the arms on, you got a duffer coat, and this is the Iron Age.
Yeah.
And what they're doing, they're finding basically the epithelial plate. That's the bit that's usually on the tops of bone, which haven't sealed on into the heads. They're looking at this and thinking, right, we can use this for jewelry. So they put a diblet hole through that one. And again, perforated whalebone objects for whatever uses. You know, you might even think of, you going into a house and you've got these dangly things down to stop the flies moving in, right? And you get that type of thing, and you're thinking, right, maybe have things like that. They probably have lots of things like we've got in the modern day and age. And that next week shows you some of the Roman objects that have been found that we look at next week. A lot more than that, but you can see Roman objects found scattered across the site. That's what we're going to look at next week. But last, I did say that there was something I wanted to show you, right? That's basically a penannular brooch. Yeah, so found fragmentary evidence of that on the site. But one thing I want to show you, I think there's that as, oh, right, yeah, two last things, and I'll call it a day. Basically, this is what we find at Scatness, right? The entranceway into the Broch, right? This is what we find at Mycenae, thousands of miles away. The only difference is there's a lintel underneath this block, but there's no lintel underneath this one. These are both used for entrances, and they're civilizations thousands of miles apart with no links, no communication, but with the same idea to broadcast entering a building. And this is the Lion's Gate, which is on the other side. You've got the lions excavated at Mycenae by Heinrich Schliemann in 1876, I think. And the last thing I want to show you was those fragments of glass there. Right, this will lead us on to next week. Well, when we do next week, those bits of fragments of glass match very similar fragments of glass. They're associated with this gladiatorial cup that was found in Denmark at the Copenhagen Museum. And that is a translucent bowl that is found in Denmark. Exactly the same type of bowl found at the Scatness site in Shetland. And on that moment, I'm a bit knackered, and it's 9:20 smack on. So well done me. So we'll call that a day. We'll call that a day. So let's just find out if there's any questions. Should we do Henri first? Get him out the way. It's French voice. Let's listen to him. Go on, Henri.
Just curious, the raw materials, you've got furnaces. Where do they get the raw materials from to create the furnace? And also the materials that they're putting in the furnace.
Metal.
Well, the answer to this is they did it, and the thing is, what we understand with Shetland being maybe a treeless landscape by the Iron Age, it's got to be completely and categorically wrong, right? Because peat is not going to get that temperature. You know, the washed up seaweed that they're getting and you can burn, right? That's not going to get that temperature, right? Yeah, there must be lots of wood on the island to be able to do this. So our estimations of what they've got available as materials for fuel, it's completely wrong. And as I've probably said to you guys, We've got a small burner in the house, and we can go through 2 buckets of timber, you know, and that's burnt within a few hours, right? These people need tons of material to actually get the temperatures up in those furnaces to smelt these metals. That's the one thing. The raw material question is a very complex one. The raw materials from iron you could have obtained from Norway. The raw materials from iron, there's some stuff in Orkney. I haven't really researched if it's in Shetland, but then again, you're thinking about you need tin to get to Shetland, and tin got to Shetland. There is tin in Scotland, by the way, where and you're going to get zinc there as well, and you're going to have copper as well. All this material's ending up in Shetland, and that's the answer.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
It's not coming from Ireland. The point I was trying to make earlier on was that no Romans think, and then you get all the technology from Orkney and Shetland and Caithness coming into the rest of Britain, and you've got island stuff coming over, right? It would have ended up the same. We would still have had Christianity in Britain anyway. It would have all been the same timeline eventually, right? We didn't need Rome. There you go. We didn't need them. We just needed the Irish and the people from Orkney and Shetland. And a few people with hairy chests like Goth. Anything else, Henry?
No, that's it. Thank you. It was very good.
Well, thank you. I got this image of Goth with a hairy chest. I want it out of my head. Right, Goth.
No, it seems to be a very vibrant community there, isn't it? With all this stuff going on.
More than vibrant, illuminating.
Yeah, very interesting, yeah.
Illuminating.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for that. Anything from you, Pat?
No, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Who else have we got now? Annie, anything from you, darling?
No, I just enjoyed it. Enjoyed, you know, what you showed us today. Thank you.
I'm glad you've enjoyed it. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. And this is for Henry. This hat. Anything from you, Richard?
Just really to sort of say, you know, a lot of this sort of, you say, different metal ores and that they've got there to do that. You know, you say the Romans didn't get to Shetland, and there's nothing to say that traders aren't traveling the length and breadth of the coastline, selling all sorts of wares that they picked up along their way.
And anything else on that, Richard? Because there's an important point I need to drag onto that, and we'll close. Anything else, Rich?
No, that's funny.
I think there's something that we're missing, right? And it directly links in with Goth's question, right? And I do believe everybody's said their piece now, because I'm just going to say the last thing. Everybody said their piece, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. If they've got the confidence to have an industry and a building room 8 that's used for about 150 years with the raw materials, you know, everything, right? They've got the confidence to produce this stuff, and there's loads of it scattered around the site. It means that the trade links must have been so strong and powerful. There was ample material to do this in the first place. This isn't somebody with a bucket of iron every now and again saying, look, you know, do this. This is loads of material, and that is more that's as illuminating as the whole thing. There's a lot going on that, and we can only to have an industry, you need all the more materials, and they had an industry, and that's the point.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do next week, we'll look at the Ditches site, and we will look at access analysis north of Cirencester. Don't forget to send over your monies as well, guys. And I know Anne's going to say that she's already paid it. Yeah, I know you've paid, Anne.
Oh,
all right then.
Well.
Look, what do you want? A bloody medal?
Yeah, 2 weeks early.
Henry sent it 4 weeks early. So Yeah, anyway, thanks for sending all the dosh over. But other than that, we will have a wonderful class next week, a little bit more time. And usually next week, don't worry, get on at 6:45. We will have a good old chat like we did last week, because it's an acting thing. If nobody else has got anything else to say, we're going to call it a day. Really appreciate your support. And thank you very much. And I will see you all next week.
Good
Night,
night,
Garth,
good night,
Pat,
good night.
and Richard,
See
and
Good
you,
Henry.
night.
see you, Pat.
Parlez-vous français? Oui,
Happy
mon
Friday.
corps résiste encore. Night, night.
Good night. Good night. Good night. Oh, God. Oh,
Get on the road.
oh, oh.
Yeah, I think I need to go. Yeah. And like the Russian hat, do you?
I'll get you a real one.
It is a real one. Actually, I tell you what, on set over the past couple of days, I've had people stopping me saying they love this hat, right? So if there is an offer of getting me another one, right, and with a different design as well, I would really, really appreciate that.
With a hole in it.
What, side on, straight in there? Well, I don't know. I don't want it blood stained, mind.
Right, I'll leave you go.
Or an ice pick. No, you're getting my mind going. No. I will see you next week, Henry. Take care. Thanks for everything. Keep sending the stuff over. I know you sent me some stuff. I need to read it. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I sent you a picture of a spade. So don't worry.
Yeah, I got it. I knew. Yeah. I will. I might show that next week.
Okay, have a good one.
Thanks for your support. I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Night. Bye. Anyone watching on YouTube, thank you very much for watching. I've not been able to respond to people's doodads, but actually, do you know what? I might. There's a way I can do this now quickly. So if I go onto my phone now, I can see the live feed, and oh God, I know this. If anyone's put anything out there, I'm going to say thank you very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Oh, the dodgy git! I said this, same as native Turtle Islanders, oil slaughtering areas, or battle plans, or attack strategy. A, faux strumming. Thanks. Thank you, dodgy git. Anyway, dodgy git, I'm going to say good night now. Diolch yn fawr chi. Golochiato. Strumming. Anyway, thanks, guys. I'm going to look in the chat box and we're going to call it a day. I'm going to go. Ian die tree pedo pink. Nothing on the chat. 1. Nothing on the chat. 2. Dum. Nothing in the chat. Nothing there. 1, 2, 3. No. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, guys, for your support. Hopefully, Elise will be there and anyone else. Love you guys. And Meg, we haven't seen you for a while. Take care. Bye-bye. Nasta.